I was never supposed to be the rich sibling. That was always Olivia. She was the golden child from the moment she came out of the womb with that perfect little nose and that loud, theatrical cry. I was the quiet one. Elliot, 34, the techie, older brother who wore hoodies to family dinners and spent more time on laptops than at social events. Growing up, Olivia had a way of owning the room without trying. She got the compliments, the extra servings, the louder applause. I got, "Can you help Grandma with the TV? And try not to make everything about computers, sweetie." It didn't bother me too much back then. I was used to fading into the background. Besides, I was building something quietly, patiently. A software company I started in college, grown over years of quiet obsession and 16-hour days. No one in the family really knew how big it had become. Not because I was hiding it, but because they never asked. To them, I was still little Elliot with the gadgets. Even after the company was acquired last year for a frankly ridiculous amount of money, I kept it low-key. I didn't show up with designer clothes or brag. I bought a modest house in a quiet part of town, kept my used Subaru, and only splurged on good coffee and first-class flights, because I hate cramped spaces, not for the flex. I wasn't interested in proving anything. But apparently, that was a mistake. It all really started when Olivia announced she was pregnant. The family group chat lit up like a Christmas tree. Mom was over the moon. Dad actually used an emoji for the first time, 3 hearts, no less. Olivia had just married this guy named Chad. Yes, Chad. He was every bit the stereotype. Polo shirts, backwards hat, finance bro, energy with zero actual finances to back it up. But he had charm. That slick, empty kind of charm that makes old people nod approvingly and younger people instinctively check their wallets. Olivia said they were building a future together and that they had dreams, which mostly meant he was helping her start an Instagram page for momfluencer content. She quit her job the second she found out she was pregnant, and Chad had been between roles for about 8 months. When I heard the news, I was genuinely happy for her. I sent a private message instead of replying in the chaos of the group thread. "Congrats, Liv. Let me know when you want to talk baby names. I've got opinions." She didn't reply. Not for a week. Then finally. "Thanks, smiley face. Been so busy with prep stuff. You know how it is." I let it slide. She was pregnant. Hormones, stress, yada yada. Then came the baby shower invite. It arrived in a pale pink envelope with gold foil calligraphy. I almost laughed. It looked more like a wedding invitation. Inside, a thick, cream-colored card spelled out the details. The date, time, venue, a fancy country club I didn't know they had access to. And at the bottom, in a different font that looked like it was trying too hard to be whimsical, the words, "Gifts must reflect your love, $3,000 minimum value requested. Cash, wire, or luxury items only." I had to read it twice. Then again, I even tilted the card like maybe it was a hologram prank. But nope, it was real. $3,000 minimum. Not a suggested gift registry. Not a joke. Just an outright demand. I stared at the card for a good 5 minutes. At first, I thought maybe it was a misprint or some weird inside joke. Olivia had always been dramatic, but this was cartoon villain territory. I texted her, "Hey, saw the invite. Is the gift requirement a typo?" She left me on read. 2 days later, Mom called. "Did you get the invite?" she asked, all bubbly. "Isn't it just darling? Olivia and Chad worked so hard on it." I chose my words carefully. "Yeah, about that? What's this about a $3,000 minimum gift?" There was a pause, then a dismissive chuckle. "Oh, Elliot, don't make a thing out of it. It's just a guideline. They're trying to set the tone. You know, make sure the baby gets what it deserves." What it deserves? What does that even mean? Mom dropped her voice. "You can afford it, can't you?" There it was. The shift. Not even subtle. Just a full-on assumption that because I was the tech guy, I should be the one footing the bill for everyone's dreams. I swallowed hard. "Mom, that's not the point. It's a baby shower. It's supposed to be about celebrating a new life, not collecting ransom." She sighed. "You don't understand. Olivia's had a rough year. You know she had to give up a lot for this baby. And Chad, well, he's still finding his footing." I nearly laughed. His footing? He's been unemployed for almost a year. "Don't be judgmental," she snapped. "They're doing their best." We went in circles. I didn't raise my voice, but the conversation ended with her saying, "I just hope you don't embarrass the family." And hanging up. embarrassed the family for not giving a $3,000 gift to my sister, who hadn't worked in months and hadn't even texted me back in weeks. I sat with that feeling for a while. That weird, tight ache behind the ribs where hurt turns into anger if you let it sit too long. I thought back to all the times I paid off Olivia's credit card just this once. The vacations I quietly sponsored so the whole family could be together. The car repairs, the last-minute rent help, the "can you cover dinner this time?" moments that piled up over a decade. Not once did I complain. I didn't need credit. I just wanted them to treat me like a brother, not a bank. And this was the thanks. I decided I'd still go, but I wasn't going to play along. I picked out a small, handwritten card from a local bookstore. No glitter, no music chip, no $20 gift card stuck inside. Just a simple white card with the words, "Welcome to the world, little one," in blue cursive. And from the same store, a tiny candle shaped like a duck. It cost $1.89. It smelled like vanilla. That was my gift. On the day of the baby shower, I put on a navy button-down and jeans. Casual but clean. I drove myself to the country club, parked, and walked into a room decked out like a wedding reception. Flowers, buffet tables, hired waitstaff, a violinist in the corner playing pop songs in classical style. Olivia stood in the center of it all in a white maternity dress that screamed designer. Chad was shaking hands like he was running for office. My mom saw me first. "Elliot," she hissed, pulling me aside. "Where's your gift?" I smiled and held up the small bag with the card and the candle. Her eyes widened. "You're joking." "I'm not." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "How embarrassing." I looked at her calm. "You think that's embarrassing?" Then I pulled out my phone and casually opened my banking app. Tapped a few times. I just canceled the wire transfer for the house I was buying them. She blinked. "What?" I was going to surprise Olivia. Had a deal going on a little starter home in their neighborhood. Nothing crazy, just $400,000. Figured they could use a real home instead of Chad's parents' basement. Her mouth opened, closed. Then Olivia tapped her glass with a fork and called for everyone's attention. It was time for toasts. I walked toward a chair near the back. Sat down. Pulled out my phone again. The cancellation notice came through. Wire transfer canceled for $100,000. No action required. Right then, Olivia's phone buzzed. I saw her glance down mid-toast, glass raised. Then her face drained of color. 1 second she was glowing, thanking everyone for their generosity. The next, she looked like someone had flipped a switch inside her skull. But I just smiled and took a sip of lemonade. And that was just the beginning. I wish I could say Olivia played it cool after the wire transfer got canceled, but you'd be giving her way too much credit. The second that notification hit her phone, she went pale, like actual ghost white. She tried to recover, flashing a tight-lipped smile while raising her glass again, but her hand was visibly shaking. The room was full of light laughter and fake cheers, and yet I could feel the tension radiating off her like static. She didn't even finish her toast. Just mumbled something about unexpected news and sat down without making eye contact. I stayed at the baby shower long enough to be polite. I ate a few mini quiches, sipped my drink, nodded at relatives who barely remembered my name. But Olivia? She didn't come near me. Not once. And Chad? He was glued to his phone the whole time, whispering to her in between nervous glances in my direction. I knew exactly what was happening. They were trying to figure out how to spin this. How to make me the villain. It didn't take long. That night, the family group chat exploded. At 9:14 p.m., Olivia sent a message. "Hey everyone, I just want to say thank you again for today. It was beautiful, and we felt so loved. That said, I'm deeply hurt that certain people think money is a weapon to be used against family. I hope someday they realize that love isn't measured in dollar signs, but in kindness. Good night." You know what's wild? She actually got sympathy. A few cousins chimed in with heart emojis. Aunt Carol wrote, "Some people never grow out of being selfish. You're glowing, sweetie. That's all that matters." Then my own mother replied, "So sorry this happened today. You deserve better." Some people forget where they came from once they have a little success. And I just sat there, reading it, over and over. I wasn't angry. I was numb. Forget where I came from. I remembered where I came from. I remembered every night I stayed up learning code on a beat-up Dell from the pawn shop. I remembered making coffee in a dorm kitchen while Olivia was on her third spring break trip in Cabo. I remembered Mom calling me antisocial at Thanksgiving because I left dinner early to take a conference call with a potential investor. I remembered when they all laughed at me for skipping Olivia's engagement party so I could pitch to an angel fund that eventually became my company's seed round. But sure, I was the selfish one. Over the next few days, things got worse. The texts started coming in directly. From Chad. Bro, that was low. You embarrassed her. She cried the whole night. From Mom. You ruined what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. I hope you're proud of yourself. Even from Olivia's best friend Melanie. You used to be the chill brother. What happened to you? Don't forget who always had your back when you were just a nerd. I didn't respond to any of them. Because here's the thing, I had changed. Somewhere in the quiet grind of building my life, I had developed a backbone. I wasn't the shy, agreeable brother anymore. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need to prove my loyalty by throwing money at people who didn't respect me. But silence didn't help either. 2 weeks after the baby shower, I got a call from Dad. Now, my dad is hard to explain. He's present but distant. Always has been. One of those emotionally constipated types who shows love through grunts and oddly timed weather updates. So when he calls, it's either an emergency or a very awkward attempt at reconciliation. Hey, sport, he said. He still calls me that. I've never played a sport in my life. Hey, Dad. I heard about the house thing. Of course he had. Yeah, I changed my mind. Long pause. Then, Olivia and Chad. Stop. I didn't even raise my voice. Don't do this. He sighed. I'm not taking sides. I just think maybe you should apologize. For the sake of peace. I closed my eyes. Peace isn't built on letting people walk over you, Dad. Another pause. I just don't want the family split. And there it was. Not a word about what they had done. Just the classic, you're both wrong, neutrality that somehow always leaned in Olivia's favor. I ended the call quickly. No yelling. No drama. Just a quiet realization that I was alone in this. But I still didn't cut them off. Not yet. Because deep down, I wanted to believe that maybe this was a fluke. A moment of collective delusion. Pregnancy hormones. Peer pressure. Miscommunication. I gave it time. I waited. Then came the nursery fundraiser. Yes, you read that right. A week later, Olivia posted on Instagram a link to a GoFundMe. The caption read, "Hey friends and fam. Baby M is almost here, and we're creating the dream nursery she deserves. We've picked out sustainable furniture and ethically sourced baby supplies. Every little bit helps. Let's build her a room full of love." The goal? $25,000. I choked on my coffee. They wanted strangers to pay for organic cribs and whatever bougie minimalist brand of baby wipes was trending that week. I didn't know whether to laugh or throw my phone out the window. The worst part? People were actually donating. My mom shared it on Facebook with a caption that made my blood boil. My daughter and her husband are doing their best to create a healthy, loving home for their little one. Any help is a blessing. I stared at the screen. Doing their best? Chad still hadn't gotten a job. Olivia still hadn't called me directly, not once since the baby shower. But now I was expected to applaud them for crowdfunding their Pinterest nursery. I reached my breaking point the night of the nursery reveal party. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I saw the photos all over social media. Olivia twirling in a pastel room decorated like a boutique hotel. Chad holding a balloon shaped like a moon. My mom standing proudly in the background, like she had personally designed the space. And then, buried in a sea of hashtags, I found the line that broke something inside me. Olivia had posted, "We did it all, without help from anyone who tried to hold money over our heads. You can't buy love, but you can build a home with kindness." That was it. I stared at that sentence for a long, long time. My chest was tight. Not from anger, but from something deeper. A kind of grief. Like watching someone you love slowly drift into a person you don't recognize. I thought of every birthday I'd quietly paid for. Every car payment I'd helped with. Every dinner where I'd picked up the check while Chad conveniently forgot his wallet. And now she was rewriting history. I hadn't held money over their heads. I offered them a home. Quietly. Generously. They slapped my hand away and then painted me as the villain. That night, I pulled out my laptop. Not to send an angry email. Not to start a fight. But to start a plan. Because here's the thing. I'm not confrontational by nature. I'm not one for big scenes or dramatic speeches. But I am meticulous. I'm patient. And I believe people should be held accountable. Not with yelling, but with clarity. So I started gathering receipts. Literal ones. Every transaction. Every payment I'd made just to help. Every Venmo transfer. Every wire. Every time Olivia or Chad had said, "We'll pay you back," and never did. I pulled screenshots of text messages, emails, DMs. I archived posts where they'd thanked me, only to later pretend I never helped. It took me 4 hours. By the end of the night, I had a 38-page PDF labeled Unpaid Debts and Favor History, Olivia and Chad. And I wasn't planning to send it. Yet, the final straw came a week later when my mom called, this time in tears. "They're being evicted," she said. "Can you help them? Just one last time." I blinked. Evicted from what? The basement. Chad's parents said they've had enough. Of course they did. Why is that my problem? I asked, my voice flat. "They'll have nowhere to go. Olivia's due in 2 months. I let the silence hang. Then I asked, slowly, "Are they willing to apologize for what they said?" Mom hesitated. "She's emotional, Elliot. She's pregnant. Can't you let it go?" There it was again. The expectation that I bend, that I carry the weight, that I be the bigger person. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. I leaned back in my chair, stared out the window at the city skyline, and said the words that changed everything. "No, but I do have an idea. The thing about family is that when it breaks you, it doesn't happen like in the movies. There's no dramatic lightning strike, no screaming match in the rain, no one walking away while emotional music swells in the background. It's quieter, slower, like a steady leak you didn't notice until the ceiling caves in." After I told my mom no, that I wouldn't help Olivia and Chad again, the silence from my family was deafening. I mean, total radio silence. No texts, no calls, not even a passive-aggressive meme in the group chat. They just shut me out. I thought maybe it would last a few days, that someone would reach out, try to patch things up. But a week passed, then 2, then a month. I went from being the guy they always called for everything, rides to the airport, last-minute emergency fund transfers, "Can you help me reset my email password?" to a ghost. I wasn't even invited to the baby's birth. I found out my niece had been born from Facebook. Olivia posted a black-and-white photo of a tiny hand clutching her finger. The caption said, "Welcome to the world, baby Marin. You're already surrounded by so much love." I stared at that post for almost a full minute, my heart pounding like I'd just been punched in the chest. No call, no text, nothing. Just a public display of a private betrayal. I don't even know how to explain the kind of hurt that sets in when you realize your family has rewritten reality without you in it. I wasn't just cut off. I was erased. For the first time in years, I felt hollow. And not the good kind. The peaceful, minimalist kind I'd cultivated as I built my life. This was the sharp kind of hollow. The what was the point of all of that kind? All the birthdays I showed up for, all the checks I wrote, the time, the patience, the quiet grace. I'd given it freely, without ever asking for credit. And in return, they'd exiled me like I was nothing more than a wallet that finally snapped shut. I didn't get out of bed for 3 days. I told myself I was just tired. Burnout. But the truth? I was grieving. Not just for the niece I wouldn't get to hold. Not just for the sister who turned her back on me. But for the illusion I had clung to. That if I just kept being generous, kept giving and giving, eventually someone would see me. Value me. Love me for me. That illusion was dead now. And once I let that truth settle, something else began to take its place. Something quieter, steadier, and far more powerful than bitterness. Clarity. I realized that I'd spent the better part of my adult life operating from guilt. From a deep, unspoken fear that if I didn't prove my worth, through success, through money, through being useful, I would lose my family's love. And now that I had lost it, I was finally free. So I started small. I got up, showered, cleaned my apartment top to bottom, deleted Olivia's number from my phone, not in anger, but as a ritual, a boundary. Then I took a long walk with no destination. No music in my ears, just the sound of my own footsteps and the wind against my face. It was cold, early spring, and the air stung a little. But I liked it. It made me feel awake. When I got home, I opened a blank document on my laptop and wrote one sentence at the top. What do I want now? No filters, no guilt, no expectations. I made a list, not of material things. I already had more than I needed, but of experiences, places I wanted to go, skills I wanted to learn, people I missed. dreams I had shelved while I was busy playing ATM, an emotional sponge for people who never asked how I was doing. Here's a few things from that list. Take a solo trip to Iceland and finally see the Northern Lights. Learn to play piano. Start mentoring young coders from underserved communities. Reconnect with my college roommate, Malik, who I hadn't talked to in years because I was too busy. Write a book, not a bestseller, not for money. Just something honest, something mine. And maybe most importantly, build relationships that are two-way streets. That last one scared me, because I didn't even know what that looked like anymore. But I was ready to find out. I started with Malik. I sent him a DM on Instagram, something casual like, "You still making music, or did Spotify scare you off for good?" He replied within minutes. A string of laughing emojis, then a "dude, where have you been?" and an invite to grab lunch. That lunch turned into a 5-hour conversation. We talked about everything. Our careers, our dumb mistakes, our families. He had his own drama, let me tell you, and the weird pressure we both felt to always be the strong one. It felt like coming up for air. Like I'd been underwater for so long I forgot what real connection even felt like. After that, I started going to his jam sessions. Not to play anything. I didn't even know the first thing about chords, but just to be there. To let myself be part of something messy and alive and unpolished. Then I signed up for piano lessons. Twice a week. I sucked. Like, really sucked. But I laughed a lot. And I started sleeping better. My work life changed, too. I used to drown myself in projects, hoping each new deal or milestone would somehow fill the gap where love should have gone. But now I started saying no. Not to sabotage myself, but to protect myself. I stopped taking clients who drained me. I delegated more. I started mentoring, just one kid at first, a 17-year-old named Kyle who reminded me a little too much of my younger self. He had the same scrappy fire, the same hunger to prove himself, but no one in his life who believed in him. I did. We met every Friday. I didn't just teach him to code. I taught him how to think, how to fail and keep going, how to stop apologizing for being different. One day, after 3 months, he looked at me and said, "You're the only adult who's ever taken me seriously." And I swear, I almost cried. Because in that moment, I realized something Olivia never understood. Legacy isn't built through status. It's built through impact. And I was finally building mine. I never posted about any of it. I didn't need likes. I didn't need validation. For the first time in years, I wasn't living my life to be seen. I was living it to feel it. But the universe has a funny way of circling back. One night, months later, I was grabbing groceries when I ran into Aunt Carol. She didn't see me at first, just stood in the produce aisle, arguing with someone on the phone. Loudly. I only caught one sentence. Well, maybe if Olivia had thought about saving instead of painting cribs in gold leaf. She turned and saw me mid-rant. Froze. "Elliot," she said, blinking. "Oh, wow. It's been a while." I smiled. "Yeah, it has." She looked at me the way people look at a rare animal in the wild. Like she didn't expect to see me alive and well. Then she said something that surprised me. "You look good." "Thanks." There was an awkward pause. Then she leaned in, lowering her voice. "You know, not everyone bought their story. About the house thing. About you." I shrugged. "Doesn't matter anymore." But she wasn't done. "They're struggling now. Olivia doesn't talk to me much anymore either. Chad's been fired from 2 jobs. Your mom's been covering their rent." My chest tightened, not with guilt, but with a complicated kind of ache. Not for them. For me. For the version of me that would have dropped everything to fix it. I nodded, politely excused myself, and left. That night, I sat in my apartment, the city buzzing below, and realized something big. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need an apology. I didn't even need closure. I had something better, peace. But life, as always, had other plans. Because just when I thought I was done with all of it, when I'd finally healed enough to move on, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived in my mailbox. Not an email. Not a text. An actual, honest-to-goodness envelope. It was cream-colored. Elegant. Embossed. No return address. Inside, a handwritten note. Olivia's handwriting. The first line, "If you're reading this, then you already know things have fallen apart." The envelope sat on my coffee table like it was ticking. For hours, I ignored it. Walked past it. Made dinner. Cleaned the kitchen. Played a few broken piano chords that sounded like a raccoon stepping on glass. But eventually, curiosity won out. I sat down, opened the envelope, and pulled out the note. It was Olivia's handwriting, unmistakably hers. Rounded letters, little hearts over the eyes, just like when we were kids. And yet, the words on the page felt like they came from a stranger. The first line was enough to make my stomach twist. If you're reading this, then you already know things have fallen apart. No apology, no hi, no acknowledgement of the months of silence or the storm she helped stir. Just a kind of resignation, like she was finally facing consequences she never expected would reach her. The rest of the letter was a mess of contradictions. She wrote about how Chad had made some bad investments, translation, lost their savings on crypto tips from Reddit, how their landlord was threatening eviction again, and how she wished things could go back to the way they were. She didn't say sorry for the baby shower stunt, or for turning our family against me, or for publicly framing me as some cold-hearted egomaniac. Instead, she wrote, "You were always the one who had it together, the one who fixed things. And I know you probably hate me now, but I'm scared, Elliot. I don't know how to get out of this mess." Then, at the very bottom, in smaller handwriting, "I don't know who else to ask." I sat with that letter in my lap for a long time. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was just still. The kind of still that only comes after you've done all your grieving and finally see things with perfect, painful clarity. And what I saw was this. Olivia didn't change. She never had. She just ran out of places to point her problems. And now that the walls were closing in, she remembered the brother she'd spent years ignoring until it suited her. But I wasn't the same person she remembered. That version of me, the one who dropped everything, who forgave too easily, who wrote checks like Band-Aids for emotional wounds, he was gone. And in his place stood someone new. Someone who had rebuilt his life, brick by brick, without her approval, her validation, or her drama. And maybe it was time she learned what that version of me was capable of. I didn't plan revenge out of spite. It wasn't about payback. It was about truth. About finally peeling back the layers of sugar-coated lies and showing the people who had treated me like a footnote that I was done playing the supporting role in a script I didn't write. So I opened a new document. This time, not to list what I'd given, but to map out what I would do. Phase 1, control the narrative. It started with an email. Not to Olivia. To my mom. It was short, polite, civil. "Hey Mom, I got Olivia's letter. I'm not angry, but I need you to understand a few things before you ask me to help again. I've attached a PDF of every financial favor I've done for Olivia and Chad since 2017. Totals, dates, screenshots. You'll notice it comes out to just over $181,000, not including the house deal I canceled. I'm not sharing this to make you feel bad. I'm sharing it because I've realized no one in this family actually sees what I've done. And until you do, there's nothing else to talk about. Love, Elliot." I knew she'd read it. She was obsessive about emails. Checks it 4 times a day. It took less than 12 hours before she replied. I didn't realize it was that much. That was it. 7 words. No apology. No acknowledgement of the things she'd said to me. But the shift had begun. I'd cracked the surface. Phase 2, establish leverage. I wasn't just going to give Olivia a handout. If she wanted help, she had to come to me directly. No middlemen. No crying to Mom. No vague letters. So I sent her a text. "Got your letter. Let's talk. Face to face. Just us." No response for 3 days. Then finally, "Okay." Saturday. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our neighborhoods. Neutral ground. She showed up late, in sunglasses, no makeup, wearing that same cardigan I'd given her 3 birthdays ago when she was still pretending to care about our relationship. She sat down across from me, wrapped her fingers around a latte she couldn't afford, and said, "I didn't think you'd actually come." I shrugged. "I'm here." She didn't say thank you. She launched into a monologue about how hard things had been, about Chad's bad luck, about postpartum exhaustion, about how people were judging her for the GoFundMe, and how everyone expects me to be perfect. And then, like a carefully rehearsed closer, she said, "I just need a fresh start." I stared at her for a beat, then said, "I agree." She blinked. "What? You need a fresh start. Not a bailout. Not another quick fix. A clean slate." "Ah, yeah, that's what I meant." I leaned forward. "Good. Because I'm willing to help. But only if things change. Permanently." She narrowed her eyes. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said slowly, "that if I help you this time, it's not going to be a secret. I'm not going to be your hidden piggy bank anymore. There will be conditions. Public ones. She looked like I'd slapped her. What kind of conditions? I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside, a single-page agreement. I had titled it Accountability Reset. It wasn't a legal contract, but it was real enough. Bullet points. Simple language. Any financial support going forward would require transparency and written plans. No luxury purchases. No GoFundMes. No social media lies. Olivia would publicly acknowledge, in writing, the help she'd received, not to praise me, but to stop pretending I was the villain. Chad would be required to attend 2 job interviews a week, minimum. Proof required. If any condition was broken, support would end permanently. She read it, silent, then looked up, eyes wide. You're serious? Dead serious. Do you want me to post it online or something? Humiliate me? No, I said. I want you to tell the truth. To stop pretending you built your life alone. She was quiet for a long time, then whispered, what happens if I say no? I leaned back. Then you're on your own. She didn't sign it. Not then. But she didn't storm out either. She folded the paper, slipped it into her purse, and said, I need to think. And that was fine by me. Because while she was thinking, I was moving. Phase 3, build the stage. See, I didn't just want to restore the truth. I wanted to reclaim my name. And not just within my family, but in my own life. So I started planning something I'd been quietly dreaming about for years. A foundation, not a charity. A launchpad. The EW initiative, named after my late grandfather, not myself, aimed to provide young coders and creators from difficult backgrounds with access to mentorship, equipment, and seed funding. No red tape. No endless forms. Just real, human support. I funded it privately, quietly. The only people who knew were a handful of mentors I recruited, folks like Malik and a couple of women I'd met through local STEM organizations. People who got it. I poured everything I'd learned into this project, and something in me began to light up again. Not the old fire of ambition, but something warmer, steadier, purpose. And once the foundation's infrastructure was in place, I held a soft launch. Nothing flashy. A local event. Invitations sent to just a few key people from my past. Former professors, mentors, a few select friends, my dad, and yes, Olivia. She didn't RSVP, but I had a feeling she'd show, and I had a feeling she'd be bringing a pen. The launch event was set for a rainy Thursday evening in late spring. The venue wasn't extravagant, just a local tech incubator space with exposed brick walls and soft Edison lighting. But everything was intentional. The minimalist decor, the photo gallery of young coders from our pilot cohort, the display of used laptops that had been refurbished and donated to students who had never owned a computer before. There were no balloon arches, no violinists, and definitely no $3,000 minimum gift signs. It wasn't about image. It was about impact. Guests filtered in slowly, clutching umbrellas and coffees, shaking off the rain and offering curious glances toward the glowing signs that read the EW initiative. Building the future, one story at a time. Malik was the first to arrive, carrying a tray of cookies his wife had made, so you wouldn't forget you have real friends now. He slapped my shoulder and said, You nervous? I shrugged, more tired than anything. But the truth was, I was calm, eerily calm. Like the kind of calm that only comes when you've already let go of needing a specific outcome. My dad showed up next. He didn't say much, just gave me a nod. Then he spent the rest of the evening circling the room with a scotch in hand, pretending to look at the displays while occasionally clearing his throat when someone complimented the event. I think that was his version of pride. Then, about 20 minutes after the speeches started, Olivia walked in. She was dressed simply. No designer maternity dress this time. Just jeans, a raincoat, and hair pulled back in a loose bun. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, but dimmed. Like someone who had finally started to understand gravity. She didn't approach me right away. She stood near the back, arms crossed, eyes scanning the room. I let her wait. The keynote went smoothly. I spoke briefly about the mission of the foundation. I told a story about Kyle, my first mentee, who was now building his own app and had just won a local coding competition. I thanked our small but powerful team. Then, as I was about to step off the stage, I paused. There's one last thing I want to share, I said, my voice steady. This initiative wasn't just born from success. It was born from failure, from grief, From the realization that sometimes the people who are supposed to support you are the ones who hurt you most. There was a quiet murmur. I spent a long time trying to earn love by giving everything I had away. My time, my money, my peace. I believed if I kept giving, eventually, someone would give back. That if I fixed enough problems, I would finally be seen, valued. And then, one day, I stopped. And the silence that followed, that absence, was the most honest thing I'd ever heard. The room was dead quiet. But here's the thing. That silence didn't break me. It freed me. It gave me room to rebuild, to create something that doesn't depend on approval or praise, just purpose. I stepped back. Applause followed, genuine, quiet, respectful. Not for me, but for what the room meant. I didn't look at Olivia once, but I knew she was still there. After the crowd thinned out, after the food trays had been half cleared and the music turned down, she approached. She didn't say anything at first, just stood in front of the main display wall, the one with the minty stories and their photos. "This is incredible," she said finally, voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. "Thanks." She looked down, fidgeted with the sleeve of her coat, then pulled something from her purse. The folder. My one-page agreement. Signed. "I thought about what you said," she murmured, "and about what I did." There was a pause. "I don't remember when we stopped being close," she said, not looking at me. "But I know I pushed you away. I know I used you. And I thought you'd never leave." I studied her face. There were dark circles under her eyes. Her hands trembled slightly. "I'm not asking for anything now," she said quickly. I just wanted to give you this. And say I'm sorry." For a long moment, I didn't say anything, because I wanted to make sure I meant what I was about to say. "I believe you," I said. "But things don't go back to the way they were. Not anymore." She nodded slowly. "I know." Then she turned to leave. "Olivia." She paused. "You'll get the support. Rent. Groceries. One-on-one career coaching for Chad. But no more lies. No more facades. If I help, it's to help you, not your image." Her eyes welled. "Okay." And just like that, she was gone. But that wasn't the end. Not quite. Because then came the fallout. A few days after the launch, I got a phone call from my mom. "Your sister said you're helping them again." My gut tightened. "On conditions," I said. "Strict ones." She huffed. "You don't get to dictate." "I do," I interrupted, calm. "Because I'm the one giving. And I'm not doing it in secret anymore." She paused. "You know this whole thing, this foundation, it's just your way of showing off." "No," I said. "It's my way of moving on." Click. She hung up. And I let her. 2 weeks later, Olivia sent me a screenshot. My mom had unfriended her on Facebook. Underneath, Olivia had typed, "I guess we're both out now." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because sometimes, the real revenge isn't ruining someone's life. It's refusing to let them ruin yours. And as for Chad, let's just say he didn't last long in the program. 3 missed job interviews. 1 half-baked MLM scheme. 2 late rent payments. I gave him one final chance. Then I cut the support. Olivia didn't fight me. She just thanked me for trying. And when I saw her months later, working the register at a local bookstore, I didn't feel pity. I felt something like respect. She had finally stopped pretending. And so had I. I still don't talk to most of my family. Not because I'm angry, but because I'm finally full. My life is loud with purpose, rich with real connection. I play piano badly, laugh often, and mentor kids who remind me why I started this journey in the first place. I never needed revenge to be dramatic. I just needed it to be true. And as I stood in my office one evening, watching a new mentee explain her first project on a whiteboard, I realized they didn't break me. They built me. They just didn't know it. Until now.